Hello, Year 11. So, second question that we're going to be working on during this cover lesson, and you have this as a resource to use on the YouTube channel whenever you are revising for an assessment. So, starting off, we're going to box our command word, which is explain. So we need to use AO2 skills here, show our understanding of the topic that we're looking at. And the question is asking us explain how reliance, underline that, on a single commodity, underline that as well, which is going to be copper, which won't ever be given to you in the question, but just for this assessment, if this question does come up, we are going to have that there for you to remember that when you get the question. We're going to be looking at Zambia because of this. We know that copper is our resource that we look at in Zambia. It's our LIDC, which has had an influence on its development because of this single commodity. Now, in terms of these words, we're going to try and link them into what we've looked at in different units, but as well this unit specifically, dynamic development. So please make sure that you have a look at that unit when you're revising this topic, looking at around pages 200 for the Zambia case study, 200 onwards. And single commodity basically means that single resource is being exported. In this case, copper being exported through countries like China, and also developing a partnership with countries like Tanzania. And then how has it influenced their development? So how has it changed, improved, or disimproved the country as a whole or local areas? And in terms of that, we're going to be thinking about things like their development indicators. We write that down. Development indicators, we're going to think about social indicators like life expectancy, which we know LIDC countries tend to have a low life expectancy. Is it improving their life expectancy? We're going to think about economic indicators like gross national income or gross domestic product, the level of income people have, and the value of goods and services that they export. And then you could also have environmental indicators, and those could be things like green space, percentage of the country. Example, if the country has only about 4%, 5% green space, or a city has 4 or 5% green space, that means that they are not environmentally sustainable. So, how has Zambia become reliant on copper and why? So in its history, colonization has led to Zambia being reliant on trading and exporting this resource. So trading and exporting copper. Now this is because Zambia is copper abundant. That means it has a lot of copper. So you need to finish that sentence. This is because Zambia is copper abundant, and that will allow it to attract investors. So I'm not going to write that out. And then this helps to develop their international trade with other countries, countries like Tanzania, China. So that's our kind of point that we need to develop, and I'm going to get you to finish that. Maybe the cover teacher can pause the video so we can finish that sentence in our books. The second thing we need to do then is give evidence. And we've got information here about the reliance on copper and how it changed over time. So, reliance on copper had ups and downs. And we've got examples of these ups and downs. So we had ups and downs in between 1970 to 2000. We had a price high, and this price high of copper led to the country developing. So that's the country of Zambia. Now these developments especially would have taken place in cities like Lusaka and in areas where there's a lot of copper. So places where they would bring the copper to, and the areas that were mining the copper, like the Shambishi mines. which we've got here. Now, of course, this would have had an environmental impact, which could be one of the negative impacts on its development. So we could go on here and we could say, during times of high copper trade, Zambia's environmental development would have suffered. And you need to be able to go and say how that happened, so we can think about things like deforestation, cutting down trees to make space for the copper mines, things like air pollution. So I'll put them in brackets for you here that you can refer to. You need to be able to develop those sentences, please. Do not rely on just copying this all down. Just like we don't want countries like these LIDCs to rely on a single commodity. Now, in terms of reliance on that commodity, if we do it all over the country, relying on this means opening many mines across the country. So we're developing this idea here. And upscaling the environmental impact. So reliance on that commodity itself is leading to negative development of the country's environmental development, the environmental sustainability. Okay, now that's quite a kind of vague idea how you could kind of take something like this question and turn it into something about environmental development. Another thing you can do here is, I'm just going to flip over to the next page. We can think about social and economic development. So if we look at the price lows for copper, which have kind of occurred since the 2000s, the early 2000s, that would have led to investors pulling out of the country. So companies like non-ferrous metals in Chambishi, they would have reduced employment. Now, if that happened, you need to be able to develop that and say, therefore, people's lives were affected. How were their lives affected? Tell us how that happened. By reducing incomes, by making people jobless, meaning they couldn't afford food. So we're thinking about jobs, we're thinking about food security, linking into our topics like our resource reliance unit. Thinking about lack of investment for schools. Or hospital services. That would have lowered the life expectancy. So we need to be able to link in these price lows, the fluctuation in the prices of copper, into how that would have affected areas like Chambishi, and make sure that we use our case studies. So please make sure that you give this question a good go. Use the information in the book. I'm not writing you a sample answer because I don't want you to rely on us giving you a model answer. I want you to write your own one, and then we can share the best ones with the classes. Okay, best of luck with that, and please do let us know if you need any help with the question.